Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, depending on where you're listening to. And welcome to another episode of The Resume Whisperer with Josef Stetter. I'm also a corporate culturist. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that I think influences and affects a lot of people in different ways, which is how to unlock transferable skills in different ways. So first of all, let's define what are transferable skills, because I think that people kind of get into this stigma of, do I have transferable skills or not? Most skills are transferable. So let's start with kind of generic words, and then I'm going to kind of expand on that and give you a few stories and example. And I also want to tie this in today to people that served in militaria and are now trying to kind of get work in the private sector and what they need to do to stand out, which ties into the theme of the show that we've been having for the past 3 months, which is be different. So let's start with transferable skills. So there's two types of transferable skills. There's the technical skills, and then there's soft or character skills. So on the technical skills, understand that most job descriptions in North America, if you were to post, open, let's say, Indeed or LinkedIn, and look at an administrative assistant job, an engineer job, an accounting job, a marketing job, 70% of those job descriptions are exactly the same. They all use generic terminology such as budgeting, forecasting, reporting, team player, other duties as assigned, excellent communication skills, which there. So understand that all of those words have different meaning in different industry. Now, it's very important that no matter what you've done, you highlight how good you are at it. So if you've done reporting as an engineer, yes, your reports might be more technical than, let's say, a project manager or a director's reporting. But the elements of reporting are the same. So if you can quantify the report with detail that explains the level of report that you've done, the level of insights that you gave, you will stand out. So I'll give a very basic example of this. When my wife and I decided to buy a house, we looked at a neighborhood that was close to my mother-in-law and to my mother, that was close to shopping, especially groceries, was in kind of a friendly neighborhood with, good schools, easily accessible for us. That was, and obviously within our budget. A couple other minor elements, like we wanted 3 bedrooms, things like that. But that was the level of analysis that we did. And for us, it was more of a feel of the house and the location. If someone works as an analyst that does reporting on this, they look at all the variables I mentioned, but they also look at the salaries in the neighborhood. They look at the crime rate in the neighborhood. They look if there's any commercial projects or other residential projects that might help increase the value of the properties. They look at the types of businesses there. They look at, the durations of business surviving, how restaurants are thriving. Is there any festivals? Is there anything? And so they look at a lot more variables. So if you've done reporting in your job and you can quantify the number of variables or the number of things that you looked at, or the type of advice that you gave as a result of the report, or if you had more complex calculation, any detail that can help me identify how smart you are, how good you are, the level of work that you've done, allows me to recognize it in different industries. Because at the end of the day, if you studied physics, clearly there's intelligence there. But if you don't want to go in pure physics in terms of research or this, there's applications of physics such as data science, such as engineering, that you can do complex calculations of weight capacity and load capacity and other terminology that engineers use, for example. The point is, you're not limited to just physics. Physics opens several doors for you because it is considered one of the higher sciences. So same thing with forecasting, same thing with budgeting. You want to quantify numbers so that people understand what you're talking about. I've given you over the past episodes numbers in sales. Like, if I do IT sales and I sell $100,000 in IT sales in a year, I'm not a very good salesperson, because most IT sales software are usually $1 million, for example. But if I do $1 million in recruiting at $10,000 a piece, that's very impressive. That's a lot of volume of recruiting. So understand that information is always relative, and so are transferable skills. So on technical skills, as you've progressed in your career and you've gone into leadership, you do less of the pure technical and more of the actual leadership skills, right? Now, this is where I want to also touch directly into militaria. The good about militaria is that you understand structure. You understand following orders and instructions. You understand how to execute. But the people that have a career in militaria where they advance from, foot soldier to, levels of general, admiral, or depending on which branch of the military you were part of, whatever the title may be, you had to make decisions that had a choice. You survived a situation. You took action that other people didn't. You did more than the average person. And this is no different for the job. If you can communicate and highlight the whatever level of initiative, the level of responsibility, the level of work that you've done. So if you led a team, tell me how big the team is. Tell me what situations. Because being in military, clearly you can handle stress. Clearly you can manage a team, because, not everybody gets promoted. And so this is part of where transferable skills come to play. Anything can be transferable if it's communicated. Now, on the softer character skills, you have to understand that even within communication, there are different levels of communication. So Les Brown, considered one of the top motivational speakers in the world, has made tens of millions of dollars, if not more, being a motivational speaker. Compared to Les Brown, it can be argued that I do not have excellent communication skills because I haven't earned as much as he has in terms of the speaking world. However, as someone who's been involved with Toastmasters for multiple years and did my distinguished Toastmasters, where I learned to catch myself saying filler words like and like, yeah, but, because I'm thinking about something. I listen to that when people speak. And a lot of times you'll get content that's very good, but a lot of ums or a lot of ers or a lot of buts when people communicate. So there's different ways of ranking excellent communication skills. And unfortunately, in the past 100 years, these are terms that have been used in the workforce that no one's actually really defined, because they're subjective. So understand that. And again, going back, Kenneth Cole, those of you who have worn some of his shoes or otherwise clothing accessories, I remember listening to him give a speech. He pulled out a 35-page speech, 35 pages, and he literally pulled it out and read it word for word, very, very monotonic, spoke like this for about a half hour. Now, from that listening, horrible speech. But when he got to the section of how Kenneth Cole came to life, he had just signed a deal with an Italian shoe manufacturer. And there was a huge conference in New York where basically all the shoe stores or all the shoe companies order their merchandise for the year. It was too late for him to get a booth or even a ticket to this event. So he called the city and said, I need a permit for an 18-wheeler on Saks and Fifth Avenue. And the permit office laughed at him and said, nobody in New York gets a permit unless they're shooting a commercial or a movie or some sort of production. So he went to Kinko's and changed his business name from Kenneth Cole to Kenneth Cole Productions. One word. Called the city back and said, I'm shooting a shoe commercial on Saks and Fifth Avenue. I need a permit for an 18-wheeler to shoot the commercial. Got the permit and hired a few of his friends, had director's chairs, had the cameras. And every shoe brand company, before going into that conference, because he made so much buzz, came into his trailer and bought shoes from him. He sold in one weekend 280,000 pairs of shoes, and hence Kenneth Cole came to life. Now, listening to 35-page speech where it was very monotonic, a lot of filler words, I would say horrible speech. The section when he talked about changing his name with one word and generating 300,000 shoe sales in a weekend, genius. And so understand that if you define your soft skills with an example, with a story, with a personal connection, I can then evaluate that against my standard, because I've helped over 12,000 people land their dream job in as little as 2 days. And I can't tell you the number of people. As recently as yesterday, I was interviewing someone and I was like, okay, what are your 3 biggest achievements in your career? I'm really smart. I'm really good at what I do. And, I'm kind of like the go-to person for knowledge. I'm like, those are your 3 biggest achievements from the job? No, you didn't answer my question. You didn't understand what I'm trying to ask you. My question was, how great are you? Not give me cookie cutter answers, right? So most people that don't know anything about job finding write that they're hardworking, dedicated, committed, team player with excellent communication or interpersonal skills, and a few other useless words. What's your definition of hardworking? Is your definition of hardworking the same as my definition of hardworking? Or the same as the company or industry that you're trying to work in? Because if I compare, again, during the height of the pandemic, right, I compare a nurse to someone who works in public accounting during tax season. So during tax season, it's mandatory for most accountants to work 80 hours a week. So what's hardworking, 100? If I compare that to a nurse that was working at the height of the pandemic, in the first closures and kind of when people were really stressing out, that had to work 4 hours of overtime because there was a shortage of nurses or the other nurses couldn't arrive to work. Does that mean that the nurse that only worked 4 hours of overtime is less hardworking than the accountant that's working 80 hours? No. And the reason it's no is because there's a different standard, there's a different level of stress for each profession, each industry, each company. So stop telling me that you're hardworking. Give me examples that demonstrate it. So all of these soft words that are attached to every job description in North America, and most people splatter on their resume. And by the way, none of the applicant tracking system, nor LinkedIn, nor many of the other kind of main portals ever score those words on your profile. I can tell you in 20 years of recruiting, and I've been a generalist in recruiting, working with some of the biggest companies in the world, such as Deloitte & Touche, Apotex, Tata Consulting Services, Eli Lilly, a few others. I've never once looked for a resume that had those words. Okay, because again, it's defined differently. So the more you can express with examples what you do, how you do it, why you do it, the results that you produce, the meaning or significance of those results, the easier it is to demonstrate transferable skills. And again, it doesn't have to be on the job. Transferable skills can come from participating in sports because there is a structure to the sport. There are certain rules. I remember when I had a personal trainer who played semi-pro baseball, and we would have conversation. I was like, okay, it's baseball. He's like, no, you have to look at kind of where the pitcher is standing because that will tell you the angle of the ball. Though, and he started explaining things to me that as someone that, you know, I watch sports, I'm not a fanatic, but when he was explaining me the level that he was explaining his positioning, if it's a left-handed batter or right-handed batter, to especially since he was an outfielder, I was like, okay, there's a lot more data that I would have never thought about unless I had this conversation with you, because I played in, a league where everybody can play and whatever, just try to have fun and hopefully win a few games kind of thing. But people that are more serious about have insights about it. It's the same thing. So right now, very, very popular, the world of MMA training, right? So understand that, yes, it is important to do weightlifting. It is important to do cardio. But if you're doing weightlifting like a bodybuilder and you're trying to go compete in MMA, you're going to actually get hurt because you're limiting your range of motion. You're limiting your ability to do certain movement because your muscles are too big or your muscles will interfere with your fluidity and your flexibility of that. So understand that I'm not saying don't do weightlifting. I'm saying make sure you understand that the program that you're doing is actually strengthening you and helping you. If you watch soccer players, you don't really see soccer players that are jacked like this with no neck. They're all relatively skinny, very, very fit. Why? Because they need to run a lot. So it's no different in the job market. Like, sports is a simple analogy, but whether you participate in sports, for example, music. Okay, so I don't play piano, but I've been in recruiting for 20 years. Someone says I play piano, I go, what grade are you? Because I know that grade 10 is the highest. So if someone says I'm a grade 7 piano player, I know they're dedicated, committed team player or dedicated, committed, because you don't earn any grade of piano overnight. It takes years of study and patience and so forth. So it's already implied that you have that because of your extracurricular activity. If you're somebody that believes in giving back and volunteering in the community, then tell me about your involvement. Tell me to what level. I've volunteered in soup kitchens and places that make food, and we made enough food for 1,500 people. Again, it's a quantifiable. It's a way to kind of go, here's how much work I've put in my volunteer. Here's how much work I've done in theirs. And again, it could be something in your own family, right? How much time you spend, let's say, reading with your kids, how much time you spend teaching your kids certain activities or whatever it is. There's anything and everything can be quantifiable. And so this idea of transferable skills, it's communicating that your experiences are worthwhile, okay? That your experiences matter, okay? I watch shows like Hell's Kitchen. Yes, Gordon Ramsay has a very aggressive personality, but it comes from his passion about food. And when you see shows like Kitchen Nightmares and things like that, there's a level where if you're going to do something, do it right. Don't half-ass it. You can tell franchise restaurants that use frozen food that have no flavor. And again, I'm not an expert chef, and clearly I enjoy my food, right? This figure took years of dedication and commitment. This did not happen overnight, right? But when I go to certain restaurants, I can tell if it was nuked or it was fresh kind of thing. And so understand that, again, not saying that I'm an expert and I know all the flavors, but I can tell if it's microwave food or somebody took the time to cook and add certain spices, add certain flavors, add the way that they cooked it, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so this is where, it's the same with a good steak. Yes, you can go and buy a steak and cook it yourself. You can go to the keg and buy steak and cook it yourself, or you can go to like really high-end steakhouses and you tell the difference between them. You can tell the difference in the quality of the meat. You can tell the difference in the way that the flavor is absorbed into the food. And so, again, transferable skills mean that you can do things or that are applicable in different situations. How are they applicable in a situation? This is the art of wordsmithing your resume. This is the art of explaining to you. And again, I'm trying to be very broad, but I want people to understand what I'm saying. If I come and tell you jokes right now, and there's 10 people listening to my joke, 9 people are laughing, in tears, rolling on the floor, kind of there. To them, in their listening, I'm hilarious. But if one person is not laughing at my jokes, is not getting my jokes, to them, I'm not funny. Now, if I tell them the joke separately of everybody else, they're like, yeah, this person's not funny at all. But if they're in a room with 9 other people who are all laughing, by default, they will probably laugh just because everybody's laughing, not because they necessarily get the joke or sense of humor. Trust me, I love going to stand-up comedy, and I've gone into shows where I was like, yeah, that comedian's style or humor was not my cup of tea. Comedians that talk about, having sex with a cow and they're very crass. I'm a little bit more cultured. I'm a little more educated. So it doesn't work for me, right? We have an audience member asked, how can we use our creative side of our brain in other types or more structured career? So again, you have to understand that even in creativity, you have to show the storyline. You have to show the strategy or the idea. It's not that someone says, okay, I need a video. I need a promotional video. And yes, there are certain tools you can use to put background images and, highlight the words bigger, smaller, and so forth. But you can't just record a video and hope that it goes viral. There are certain functionalities or rules. And again, tying that in, So You Think You Can Dance, one of my favorite TV shows, or as a reality TV show. So is America's Got Talent, so is there. But especially in So You Think You Can Dance, and let's say American Idol or The Voice, for example, it's not necessarily the most technical person that wins. In fact, in all of the seasons So You Think You Can Dance, I think there's only been one season where the winner was the most technical. The other seasons, it was the connection with the audience. It was the ability to tell the story. So if you're from the creative side, you need to explain your process to come up with a concept. So, and again, my background, there's my Josef Stetter logo, there's my Celebrate Group logo, there's a Global TV logo. All of those experts listen to what I had to say. So if you look at my Josef Stetter, it's purposely designed to kind of look like a dollar sign. It's part of me helping you earn more dollars as a resume whisperer. My CG for the Celebrate Group, I grew up looking at different Escher diagrams, and it always fascinated me that from a different angle, you can kind of look at it. It's kind of like the 3D images. So I went to a graphic designer and I said, can you make this an Escher style logo where from one side it's a C, from another side it's a G, but it's the same kind of intertwined letter? I don't know how to do it. Somebody that's creative listened to my instruction, gave me a few samples. I was like, oh, I like this one better because you played with the shading or the way that it's curved or this. There, same thing with USA Global TV and Radio logo. Again, there is a design of why this font, why this there, because people that study it understand that. For me, I don't know what I don't know. I don't even know what font my logos are in. I just go, okay, use it looks good kind of thing, right? But there's an art to it. But if you're explaining it, you need to explain what you've done that kind of inspired you, what you've done that kind of allowed you to tell the story. Okay. Most products out there, again, yes, we are creatures of habit. There are certain things that, okay, we love this. I jokingly say with my wife, it seems like every day or every other day there's a package from Amazon. I don't even ask what was ordered. Now, there are certain things that I know about myself. My body is definitely not off the rack. So I will never order clothes online because I need to try most things on. Like, I have very flat, wide feet. I don't order shoes unless somewhere in the description it is very clear that these are considered wider shoes, for example, especially in dress shoes. But I order things from my computer. I order gadgets. Somebody shows me, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Let's go buy it. But the reason I bought it is because somebody showed me a video and went, okay, I didn't know this exists. Cool. Right? So again, somebody had to come up with that concept. I moved, I think, in my life, definitely double digits. I would say 15 to 20 times between houses that my parents owned, between cities I lived in, and so forth. And I was watching, I belong to an organization called CEO Space, and they do something similar to Dragon's Den there. And somebody came up with an idea of stickers that you can put on boxes that can carry up to 50 pounds, right? And it comes in packages of 10 where you can have a handle and you can carry the box like this. A backpack sticker, especially for something heavier, and like an over-the-shoulder sticker. I was like, this is genius. I've moved 20 times. Not in my wildest dreams would I come up with this idea, right? I love watching Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, shows like that, because I love seeing the innovations that people, or the experiences that people have to come up with a concept that I was like, I'm a guy, I have short hair. Whatever shampoo and conditioner combo that's on sale, that's mine. I don't check what products my wife uses because this one's a softener and this one is a conditioner and this one is this. Whatever, if it makes her feel good and makes her feel prettier and it works for her. I love my wife. I support her. I want her to be happy. But we don't know some of these products are and what they do. Okay. So this is where, again, I'm being sarcastic on purpose, but I'm also trying to explain to you, transferable skills are everywhere. Okay. Your ability to work in a group in academia, in your schooling, your extracurricular activities, your work experience. If you've done more than the bare minimum just to earn your paycheck, you've done something that's transferable. If you've taken any initiative, you've done something that's transferable. If let's say you've organized a birthday party, by the dictionary definition, a project is something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if you've organized a surprise birthday party for somebody, congratulations, you're a project manager. Because to organize a birthday party, you have to plan it, you have to invite people, the people need to attend, and then there's the, wow, this was a huge party, thank you, or whatever, acknowledgement of the party, the cleanup, party's done, congratulations, you did a project. It's a transferable skill. The art is to wordsmith your transferable skills to be relevant to the company or the job that you're applying for. So if you're going from a very technical field to something that involves more people, communicate how you use your technical to help make better decisions, right? So one of my guests here, Matthew Riley, who was from CNSB, He's the VP of sales. He's extremely analytical. He's very like detailed oriented. But CNS does government projects, like large, World Bank projects. So him being analytical, I think he's the first VP of sales that I've met that is that analytical, that he's like super analytical, because when you're dealing with government, everything has to be signed off, everything has to be structured, everything has to be documented, everything has to have certain timelines and so forth. And sometimes I have conversations with him and I'm like, we've become friends. And I go, yeah, I work in recruiting. I build relationships with people. I talk to them and then I go above their expectation and service them. But that's why I have an accountant to do paperwork for me. And I have, people around me that are better at paperwork than me, right? Like my COO is a nuclear engineer who was one of 10 engineers to build the propulsion system for the Navy. So he goes, we need this document. I go, okay, I wouldn't have thought of that document, but that's why you're part of my team, because your genius is stuff I don't think about, right? I'm a big picture person. I'm a visionary. I'm this. And so I'm now talking to people where they're ridiculously smarter than me, right? Like I'm talking PhDs from like Stanford and things like that. And I'm going, here's the people side of what needs to happen. And can you create the technology for it with ethical standards, with, compliance, with privacy and all that stuff? And they go, yeah, of course we can do blah, 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 blah. And I go, great. You just spoke a whole new language to me. What do you need from me so that I can get out of your way to do your genius, right? What resources, what conversations do you need to have with me so that you can do what you do? And so understand that a lot of people today are hitting desperation because unfortunately with AI, the algorithms of job boards have changed. You need to start going back to basic. You need to be more proactive. You need to show up. You need to have conversations that are not, I'm applying through Indeed. Unfortunately, it's a tougher market right now. And if you don't do the things to stand out, you'll keep spinning your wheels. Okay. And so understand that there's no such thing as overqualified. If somebody ever has the audacity to tell you that you're overqualified, here's what you say or do. You look them dead in the eyes. And if you're a little bit shy, it's against your culture to look in the eyes, right above the eyebrows, and say, so if I understand you correctly, your company does not want to make more money. And then you shut up. And when they squirm, they say, listen, if you're worried about me leaving, being bored, first of all, I chose to apply here. Second of all, I'm willing to sign a third year, like a 2-3 year contract that I'll stay here. Right? We had a viewer ask us, how can I transfer my dedication to volunteer to my resume? Again, quantify the level of volunteering. How many hours of volunteering? What kind of work you do in the volunteering? What initiatives have you done for what you believe, the causes that you believe in? Have you raised money for them? How much? Have you created any kind of online presence for them? Have you done any social media for them? Have you done any documentation for them? Have you created any policies or processes? Have you brought in experts? Have you, made a certain number of food? Have you, whatever it is, quantify it. And quantify it as it relates to something that you might do, right? That again relates using words that they use. So if someone says key performance measures, even listen, Bill Gates owns a non-for-profit that has over $100 billion in it, but he still fundraises on a regular basis to make sure that when he passes, long after he's gone, his foundations can still make the impact that he wants to make. $100 billion, a lot of money, but he's still fundraising. So anything can be quantifiable. So if you're volunteering, quantify the volunteering to the level of this is relevant to a job. So quantify, I've helped raise this much money. This is what makes me an excellent salesperson. I've led this project. This is what makes me a project manager. I've created this documentation. This is what makes me excellent operation person. It's the same in military. It's the same in this. Like, this is the standards that you have to adhere to. And these are the just a little bit extra that you did that stood out, that got you a Medal of Honor or Purple Heart or bravery or got you promoted or anything of that. Communicate why you are different, better, or other. Understand, this applies in every area of life. Okay. I am very happily married. My personality is not for everyone. My sense of humor is not for everyone. And I've had people that I've dated before I met my amazing wife, right? That we might have been on the same page for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, but then life happened. Value systems changed. And at that time, it wasn't the right fit or the right place. So you learn from it, what worked, what didn't work, and go do it again until you master it. Thomas Edison said that he found 10,000 ways that weren't a light bulb. But the 10,000 first did. So it's how committed are you to something to follow through? And again, I appreciate times are very hard. Times are a little bit crazy right now in terms of job finding, especially right now in the US market where, the IT industry has kind of a lot of companies, their legs have collapsed kind of thing. So you cannot do the bare minimum. You need to do just that much extra. You need to show up at the company's office if you can. You need to go to networking events that are specific to the industry. You need to speak to more recruiters. You need to be proactive in reaching out, asking for mentorship, asking for advice, asking for people that are currently employed, what they do, what's on their resume, what makes them an expert, what kind of experiences, what's the culture, any insider information that will help you stand out. Again, transferable skills is a term, but I've switched careers 9 times and jobs over 18 times. I can tell you that every single time I had to reinvent what are my transferable skills to match the job or industry that I was applying for. I hope that today's episode opens your eyes as to how many transferable skills you have. And again, never be shy about contacting me. My websites are behind me. Reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on most social media platforms. And let me help you succeed. My name is Josef Stetter. I am the Resume Whisperer and Corporate Culturist. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful and productive evening, morning, or afternoon. Thank you.